The child did not scream when the sky burned, and that silence frightened the Earthling more than any weapon ever had. He was called Kale by no one now, a thin, tired man with shaking hands and eyes that never fully rested, living at the edge of a forgotten mining world where broken towers leaned like graves, and humans dumped what they no longer wanted, including people. Once he had been a healer for human armies, trained to save soldiers just enough to send them back to die again, until one day he refused, and for that refusal he was marked, stripped, cursed with neural pain that came like firestorms in his skull, and exiled to a place where mercy was a crime. He survived by fixing machines no one cared about, and by never looking at the stars, because they reminded him of everything he had lost. On the night the alarms failed and the city burned, Kale hid in the shadows as human patrol ships descended, hunting something called a threat, and he told himself it was not his concern. Until he saw her stumble into the open, an alien woman with skin like dark glass cracked by light, clutching a small daughter whose eyes reflected terror without tears. The woman was bleeding, one leg useless, her body shaking not from weakness, but from holding back a scream that would end them both. And when her eyes met Kale's, there was no plea, only a quiet acceptance that humans never saved her kind. Kale should have turned away, because he knew what humans did to alien mothers, because he had treated the survivors afterward, because he had helped clean blood from floors while commanders called it necessary. But instead, he stepped forward, and that single step shattered the fragile safety he had built around his heart. He dragged them into a collapsed transit tunnel as soldiers fired blindly into the streets. And when scanners passed overhead, Kale shielded the child with his own body, biting down on his pain as the curse flared, promising death if he disobeyed his species again. The days that followed were slow and brutal, filled with hunger, fear, and the sound of boots above them. And in the dark, Kale learned the woman's name was Lurin, a word meaning last light, while the child was called Sava, born during evacuation sirens and raised in flight. Lurin spoke of a world stripped for resources, of treaties broken, of humans declaring her people parasites. And Kale listened with a healer's guilt, knowing his hands had once helped at lie continue. When supplies ran out, Kale went topside at night to scavenge, returning with burned hands and bleeding cuts, and each time he did, Sava waited awake, offering him a piece of metal shaped like a star, a child's way of saying thank you, and each time it broke him a little more. Their hiding ended when a human militia found them, men who had lost families to war and needed someone weaker to blame. And Kale stood in front of Lurin as they dragged him away, calling him traitor, monster, disease, beating him until the curse surged hard enough to make him scream, leaving him broken in the dust while they hauled the alien mother and child toward a holding camp. Kale crawled after them, vision fading, knowing he would die, knowing it would change nothing until the pain stopped suddenly, and he realized someone was holding him. Lurin kneeling beside him, her eyes glowing with restrained power. She told him the truth she had hidden, that her species were resonance, capable of bending life itself, hunted because humans feared what could not be owned, and that her daughter carried the same gift, stronger, pure, worth more alive than dead to those who ruled. Lurin healed Kale enough to stand, not without cost, her strength draining, her breath shallow, and together they followed the militia to the camp where humans gathered aliens like cattle, promising relocation while preparing execution. Kale walked into the open, unarmed, cursed markings visible on his skin, and demanded the release of the child, offering himself instead, and the crowd laughed, because humans respected sacrifice only when it served them. The commander recognized Kale, called him a failed asset, admitted the curse had been designed to break disobedient healers, and offered to remove it if Kale stepped aside and let the child be taken for study. For a moment, Kale hesitated, because pain had shaped his life, because freedom was a dangerous dream, and because he was so tired of suffering. But then Sava reached for him through the fence, placing the metal star into his bloody palm. And Kale understood what humanity truly was when no one was watching. He refused, and the commander ordered his execution. But Lurin stepped forward, using the last of her strength to awaken something ancient beneath the planet. A network of living machines her people had seeded long before humans learned to leave their cradle. The ground trembled as structures rose like giants of light, judging not by species but by intent, shutting down weapons, freezing soldiers mid-strike, exposing lies stored in human archives across the system. Lurin collapsed as the power burned through her life slipping away, and Kale caught her, screaming for help that would never come, until Sava placed her small hands on both of them, light pouring from her in a way no one had ever seen. Not destructive, but gentle, choosing life without asking permission. When the light faded, the camp was silent, the machines dormant, the truth exposed to the galaxy. And Lurin lived, changed, mortal now, her power gone, but her daughter safe. Kale's curse was gone too, not erased by machines, but overwritten by choice, and as news spread, humans argued, rulers denied, soldiers deserted, and something fragile began to shift. Kale did not become a leader or a legend. He stayed on the broken world, building shelter for those who arrived seeking safety, human and alien alike, while Lurin taught Sava how to live without hiding. And in that quiet place, far from thrones and fleets, the galaxy learned a truth it had tried to bury, that humanity's greatest failure was fear, and its greatest hope was always the one broken soul willing to stand between cruelty and a child who refused to scream.